On today's show, I am finishing out my top 30 Rangers prospect rankings with numbers 1 through 10, including possibly a new name at number 1. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers and subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment any single thing below. Now, on today's show, I am ranking the top 10 Rangers prospects, the final of 3-part series. If you haven't checked out those other episodes, be sure to go and check those out if you are curious about the actual rankings. They are, if you want to spoil it for yourself, they're in the comments, in the description of this episode on YouTube and on your favorite podcasting platform. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and start off with number 10. We have Justin Foscue, the second baseman, the Rangers' first-round pick from the 2020 draft, drafted 14th overall out of Mississippi State. He is 23 years old, will turn 24 in March. Was one of those few prospects that's left up here that was born before the year 2000. But he is a second baseman listed at 6 foot, 205 pounds, hits right-handed, throws right-handed, is probably a second base / left field / DH type, but the offense is what has carried him so far. He is one of these streakier hitters in the Rangers system, but when he gets hot, he gets absolutely red hot, just laser hot. It's just absolutely insane, the kind of streaks that he can go on. We saw that in Hickory in 2021. We saw that a little bit in Frisco in 2022, and he was an absolute doubles machine, had a really, really solid overall season in 101 games, all at Frisco this year. He had 460 plate appearances, 15 home runs, 31 doubles, and 1 triple, hit .288, on base of .367, and slugged .483 for an .850 OPS. So a really, really solid offensive season, a season that made me kind of reconsider where I think of him. I mean, he is a really, really good prospect. I have been lower on him in the past than I have on the other publications, but I really kind of turned the corner on him. He is just such a safe prospect. The bat is very, I feel very confident that it's going to be capable of handling a heavy workload and providing value at the major league level. I don't like the defense. He played some third base this year, which, that was not great. He's not a third baseman. He's probably not even a super great left fielder. It seems like second base, being average-ish there, is his defensive ceiling, but he makes very, very solid contact. He walks at a good rate. He does not strike out a whole lot, and there is some pop there. He is going to need to hit for more power to be a player that can be an everyday player. He's got that in there, and it just comes out in spurts. He is very, very good at hunting fastballs, but doesn't get blown away by other stuff when he is just sitting on that fastball. So very advanced approach. We'll see where he starts next year. I'm assuming it'll probably be in AAA because he had some time in Frisco in 2021, 104 plate appearances that season, and then 460 this year. So I think it's about time for him to move up. We'll see if the Rangers call him up at some point this season. He could be a candidate for that long-term left field spot. I think there are some other better candidates on this list that are a little bit higher up, and he's one of the first guys that I include in a lot of my trade proposals because I don't super see a spot for him, but I think that he has got some value, and a team like the Marlins, or a team that is just in need of an offensive player, could use this guy because I think he can provide some major league value. Now, number 9 on this list, we have an outfielder, Dustin Harris, who was part of the Mike Minor trade from the A's. He was drafted in the 11th round by Oakland out of St. Petersburg College, listed at 6'2", 185 pounds, plays mostly outfield. He is 23 years old, will turn 24 in July of this year. He has played first base. He has played third base. I think his days at third base are pretty much done. It seems like first base, DH / left fielder are his future positions. He made the futures game this year and had a decent season with Frisco. Ended up missing quite a bit of time due to injury. Did play 85 games though, 382 plate appearances, had 17 home runs, 16 doubles, a pair of triples, and 19 stolen bases. And had he been healthy, he probably would have had another 2020 season like he did last year. Last year he had 20 home runs and 25 stolen bases. So he's got some straight line speed. The play in the outfield is it's rough. It's rough, but it was his first season being a full-time outfielder. That is pretty much all that he played this year was in left field. He has got the raw athleticism. Finding his routes has been circuitous at best, but he's got a lot of power in there. He's got a little bit of a hole in his swing, breaking stuff in, maybe his fast stuff in. Just talked with Grant about this. It felt like a couple weeks ago, but he's got a hole in his swing, which is why the Rangers wanted to get him some time. In surprise, he couldn't end up being healthy by the end of the season to get in that Arizona Fall League. But he is one who I really, really wanted to see there. Still pretty young, turns 23 next year, has got some potential. I think is one of their top candidates for that long-term left field spot. But he's got some athleticism, he's got some pop, and he definitely can grow into that left field spot. I think it's just a little bit of a challenge there right now. And he's got a decent enough arm for left field, so I think he'll be fine. I really, really like him. Wasn't as impressed with him this year as I kind of wanted to be, but I think injuries played a part in that. I did see him get a little bit better throughout the season. Does walk at a decent rate, had a 356 on base this year and slugged 471 with those 17 home runs and 16 doubles. Solid season for him, but just not anything super crazy. 42 walks to 74 strikeouts. Pretty decent stuff for a 22-year-old at AA. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts the season at AA next year, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he goes up to AAA. But we'll see where he is at. He is probably going to have a little bit more of a spot in left field in AAA, at least early on in the season, because a guy who is coming up later on in this list is going to start the season hurt. But let's get into the next guy on this list, another first-round pick. Love having all these first-round picks in the top 10 because it means the Rangers are theoretically drafting pretty well. This next player is number 8, Kumar Rocker, the 6'5", 245-pound right-handed pitcher who is 23 years old, won't turn 24 until next year. He was the Rangers' first-round pick this year, 3rd overall. Now, part of that was a bit of a low ball signing bonus because of the fiasco with the Mets last year. He did have his first minor league action this year and was a real mixed bag. 6 starts, 4.50 ERA, 14 innings, 18 strikeouts, and 12 walks. Did not allow a home run, did allow quite a few hits. He is still working on fixing his mechanics and his delivery, kind of reworking all of it, and there are some real questions about that, but the track record is extremely solid. There is a reason that he was a top 10 pick with the Mets in 2021. Probably would have been a first-round pick out of high school had he not let everyone know that he was definitely going to go to Vanderbilt. I think that a lot of the worry on him has been overblown, and the raw stuff is absolutely amazing. He has got a lot of potential there. There are a lot of variation for what could go right, what could go wrong. But still, the guy has got some of the nastiest stuff in the system, probably the best slider in the system, one of the best, if not the best fastballs in the system, and he's got some other stuff that works for him as well. I am very curious as to see how he looks in a full season, how healthy he can be after that shoulder surgery, and what his delivery even looks like if he can get it to be something that puts less stress on his shoulder and makes him healthier for the long run. I'm really, really excited to see that. And we'll just see how it goes because he is one of now 2 players to have medical issues with the Mets in the last couple of years. We'll see how that other one cycles out. But I really, really do like Kumar Rocker. I maybe should have him higher, but I feel like this is about where he should be with the questions that abound around his game. But we're going to get into some more guys, another first-round pick, a couple more first-round picks, and some guys who really had fantastic seasons this year. But first, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From pro football to college football season, basketball, we've got it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We are always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. If you are a Mavs fan, you can go check out those odds for Luka Doncic winning the MVP. I believe he is first in those odds, last I checked, according to BetOnline. If you want to bet on the Mavs, going all the way, or the Stars, or the Cowboys doing stuff, then head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more, because BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Now, let's look at the next guy on this list, another draft pick from this year. That is Brock Porter. By the way, I'm going to place all of the former rankings from the previous episodes down there so you can see them scroll through as we continue on this list. Next guy is Brock Porter. Like I said, the Rangers' 4th round pick this year. Rangers broke the record for the highest signing bonus for a 4th round pick when they gave him $3.7 million. A lot of that was the savings they got by not paying Kumar Rocker what the slot value was for the number 3 overall pick. But this guy is the real deal. He had a commitment to Clemson that scared off a lot of different people, but I think the Rangers pretty much had an agreement with them, like, hey, if you're still there in the 4th round, we're going to draft you, we're going to give you a crap ton of money, and you can just not go to Clemson. The guy is 6'4", 19 years old, will turn 20 on June 3rd this year, listed at 208 pounds. And it's just really, really impressive stuff for the kid out of Minnesota. MLB Pipeline grades him his fastball as a future 70, changeup as a future plus pitch, excuse me. Also the curveball and a slider. Both of those could be average to above average offerings in the future. A very, very advanced feel for pitching. For his age, I have no idea where the Rangers are going to start him. I would have him a little bit higher because if you're talking about just pure upside, it's some of the best stuff in the system, but he hasn't pitched. He hasn't pitched at the minor league level just yet. Not that I thought he would, because he's a high schooler and had a lot of innings on his arm this year. His fastball sat 94 to 97, topped out at triple digits, which is very, very nice. Has one of the best changeups in the draft. Was probably the best, if not one of the best pitchers out of high school in this draft. And the Rangers got the best college arm, I think, in this draft, or former college arm, I should say, in Kumar Rocker, and the best high school arm. That is pretty nice. I didn't love it at first, how the Rangers drafted, but I think Brock Porter, it depends a lot on how this guy turns out and how Kumar Rocker turns out. But if they both end up being starting caliber pitchers in the major leagues, that is an absolute haul of a draft for a team that didn't have 2nd or 3rd round picks, and they did really, really well with him. But he had an absolutely amazing high school season this year. He won back-to-back state Gatorade Player of the Year. He won the National Gatorade Player of the Year, and this year he had 3 state titles. This year his team was 44-0. He had 3 no-hitters this year, went 9-0 with a 0.41 ERA and 115 strikeouts in 58 innings. The stuff is really, really darn good, and those poor Minnesota high schoolers probably had never seen anything like it, and maybe they never will again. But I'm really excited about this kid's future. The only reason I don't have him higher is because I don't know what to make of him just yet. He's still very young, very raw, but he is one of the older high school draft picks. I mean, he is already 19 years old. So we'll see how aggressive they want to start him. I'm thinking maybe low A. But honestly, I have absolutely no idea where they're going to start him. Let's get on to the next guy in this list. Another guy had made a big old jump. Number 6, outfielder Aaron Zavala. I was not super impressed with him out of the draft. He had Grant got a look at him last year, and that was what I was basing most of my opinion of him off of. I liked him out of the draft. I thought, fine, he's going to be a corner outfielder listed at 6 foot, 193 pounds. He is 22 years old, won't turn 23 until the end of June. Hits left-handed and is probably a left fielder. I don't see much of him in the future in right field or center field, but the man can hit. He can hit very, very well, and the only bummer on this profile is that he had a shoulder injury in Surprise, and I didn't really think that he needed to be in Surprise. He had 514 plate appearances this year between Frisco and Hickory. He started the season in Hickory, wasn't hitting for a lot of power, but a very, very advanced approach. Then kind of found that power switch late on. Then once he went to Frisco, the power really started to play up. 30 games in Frisco, 139 plate appearances. He had 5 home runs and 8 doubles, 11 home runs and 10 doubles, as well as 3 triples in 375 plate appearances at Hickory this year. But the guy has a huge on-base percentage for his minor league career. In 2 seasons, a 444 on-base percentage. That's 607 plate appearances, so that thing is legit. Also hits 280, so not quite the same thing as Trevor Hauver of not hitting for a lot of average or power. He hits for actually about the same power as Hauver, but I think he is a more legitimate prospect in left field. Sometimes I've seen his arm look really good. Sometimes I've seen it look really bad. But I am really, really high on this kid. I loved what I saw from him, and I am really, really excited for his future in a way that I wasn't really as much before. And it is really nice to see him just get that breakout after having that medical scare after the draft. Just you didn't know if he was going to play baseball anymore, and the Rangers were able to get him at a pretty discounted rate because there was all of that uncertainty. But I'm glad that he is just healthy and playing baseball and absolutely dominating. That is one of the biggest positive developments. And the guy is just so balanced at the plate. He never looks like he is swinging out of his shoes for anything, but he still hits for that power to all fields and recognizes spin, recognizes fastballs, recognizes all pitches, and has a really, really good eye for the zone for the 22-year-old. I think he's going to start the season in AAA. Whenever he does end up getting back, he is going to be out until I think it's the end of May with that shoulder injury that he sustained in Surprise, Arizona. But really good season for him. And I think long-term, if I were taking my bets on who is going to be the Rangers' long-term left fielder, I think it's going to be Aaron Zavala because he is really darn good. Coming up, we're going to get into the top 5 Rangers prospects. But first, this word from our sponsors. At number 5 on this list, we have Luisangel Acuña, or listed as Jose Acuña for some reason on Baseball Reference. I don't know why they do this, but they have done it, and, that's fine. But anyway, he is the younger brother of Ronald Acuna Jr. No, he does not have the same potential, but he had a fantastic season. He is a shortstop/second baseman. I think he is a legitimate defensive first guy who has also got a lot of offensive value. I think he could be an everyday shortstop at the big league level. And he is absolutely fantastic this year. He stings the ball to all different parts of the park. Doesn't walk at a super elite rate, but, walks at a fine enough rate. Had a really, really good season in Frisco. Got called up about at the halfway mark of the season. Missed some time due to injury, but started the season in Hickory. And between Hickory and Frisco, he played 91 games, over 400 plate appearances with 11 bombs, 16 doubles, and 2 triples. An on-base of 369, and OPS just 5 points below 800. All of that while being significantly younger than his competition. In Hickory, he was 2.5 years younger than the average position player in that league. And in the Texas League, he was 4.2 years younger than the average position player in that league. And he really held his own. I mean, an OPS of 651 at Frisco, but it didn't tell the whole story. He had some very, very good at-bats, and when he made contact, it was loud, and it was hard, and it went to the fences. It was just very, very good offensive approach for him, and the defense looked really darn good. He looked like a shortstop, and he could handle second base as well. He did very well in the Arizona Fall League. A couple of home runs for him there, a pair of doubles and a triple as well, and on base over 300 for a pretty darn advanced league for such a young kid. Because he only had those 400 plate appearances this year. They wanted to give him some time in Surprise, and he held his own with some of the best prospects in baseball. And that is a huge, huge sign for him that the Rangers believe in him. And I do think that, well, since the Rangers have shortstop pretty much locked down for the next, I don't know, however many years are left on Corey Seager's contract, 9 years, 8 years, however many are left, that's not going to be a position for him. I do think he's an everyday capable player. And we'll see if the Rangers want to either include him in a trade package for an outfielder, one of those outfield bats that it seems like they might be looking for, or if they want to just hold on to him and have him be a super duper utility guy or switch positions around, move Corey Seager to third base, move Josh Jung to the outfield at first, and do all that nonsense. But Luisangel Acuña is, I believe, an everyday shortstop at the big league level. That is going to carry some value, and he can provide enough offense to be at least average, I think, offensively at shortstop. And that's a really darn good player. And he is at number 5 on this list. So that just tells you how good I think this system is. At number 4 on this list, this is one of the biggest drops in the top 10. Well, actually, no, I think that's Cole Winn. But this is a pretty big drop as well. I have Jack Leiter here at number 4 on my list. The Rangers' first round pick, 2nd overall in the 2021 MLB draft. He will turn 23 years old on April 21st, listed at 6'1", 205 pounds. You all know the deal with Jack Leiter. This was not a great season for him. I do still think he is going to be a really darn good pitcher and a really darn good player, but this is more of a sign of the guys ahead of him than it is about him. He kind of stagnated this year. This was a very, very aggressive assignment. It's his first professional outings were in Frisco. He didn't have any short season ball. He didn't have any Arizona Complex League. It was just, here you go, from Vanderbilt to frickin' AA Texas League with some really darn good prospects. And it was the first time that I think in a while that he hadn't been by far the best player in whatever league he was playing in. He had a ERA over 5.5 this year, 92 2/3 innings. Still did have the 109 strikeouts, so 10.6 Ks per 9. 5.5 walks per 9 is the big issue, and he kept missing everything glove side. Everything glove side. Could not locate that at all. Was relying a whole lot on his fastball. Could not pinpoint the curveball and slider like I saw him do at Vanderbilt, which really put him in a bind, and hitters would just sit on his fastball and tee it up. He did add a cutter this year. I didn't see it all that much. Tried to use his changeup just a little bit. I think he's going to be fine. This was a rough year for him, and I have no doubt that he is going to get in the lab at Vandy, figure out whatever the crap was going wrong with him, and fix it, because he is just too good of a player not to do that. So, rough season for him, but I think he'll bounce back and might end up being number 1 on the list next year, or may end up being in the big leagues next year, because who freaking knows. Anyway, let's move on to number 3 on this list. We have Owen White. A fantastic season for Owen White, a guy who is listed at 6'3", 199 pounds, the right-handed pitcher. Just turned 23 in August and was the Rangers' second-round pick in 2018, one of the biggest victims of the deload program. It has been a while since he has pitched a full season, but this was a really, really nice season of work for him. He has not pitched more than 35 1/3 innings in a season before this year, and this year he did it. Well, I guess if you add in the Arizona Fall League, well, really, I forgot. This is only his second season of minor league ball, because he missed time due to the deload program and due to Tommy John surgery and due to the pandemic. So last year was his first year of work, only had those 35 innings in the regular season, then 28 in the fall league where he was absolutely dominant. This year he just picked right up where he left off. It was a little bit of a rough start for him in Hickory, but he did end up figuring it out. Had a 12.4 Ks per 9 there, and the walks per 9 under 3, which is what you absolutely love to see. ERA just under 4, but it was really kind of blown up by a couple of bad starts early on. Then figured it out late, went to Frisco, and I did not get to see him pitch in Frisco, but I got to watch him in that Texas League Championship where he came in and went 6 up and 6 down, all with strikeouts, and absolutely got fired up. And I think that was something that really provided the Rough Riders with a spark that kind of helped him win that championship. He is called Bar Fight White because he's got some of that North Carolina in him. And if you were in a bar fight, this is probably the number 1 pick in the Rangers farm system for guys you want having your back in that fight. Had a 2.49 ERA in 21 2/3 innings in Frisco, more than a strikeout per inning, under 2 walks per 9 innings, 9.6 Ks per 9, 1.7 walks per 9, and under half a home run per 9 innings in those 4 outings for Frisco. So again, the question with him, can he stay healthy? Because when he is healthy, he has the most electric stuff in the Rangers system, right up there with Jack Leiter. And he had a better season with Jack Leiter. Everyone had their their downs this year. Every pitcher had their down moments or things that detracted from this being a great year. And for Owen White, it was keeping him on the IL for 6 weeks and not saying anything, saying it was just a little elbow flare up. But he came back and pitched, and he looked really darn good when he did. So I think his ceiling is incredibly high. Could be that of a number 2 starter. Could end up being a number 4 starter, or his injuries could limit him to a bullpen role. But for right now, the stuff is electric, and he is using it very, very well. Loved what I saw from Owen White this year. Number 2 on my list, it broke my heart to do this, but I had to. Josh Jung. Yes, that is right. Josh Jung is not number 1 on my list, so you all probably know who number 1 is. But Jung had a fantastic season after missing most of the year due to an injury with his shoulder during spring training, which was one of the hugest bummers of the season, that he wasn't ready to fight for that job out of camp at third base. Took him a while to get to the big leagues, but he finally got there. I mean, he was supposed to miss the entire season. Ended up not, came back, I believe, at the end of July, when it was supposed to be maybe he is playing, maybe he's starting to swing in the end of August, and he's probably not going to play the field at all this year, but he did, and he made his big league debut, and really held his own. I mean, homered his first major league at bat, has 5 home runs, at the major league level already, more than anybody else on this list, which is pretty impressive. Held his own defensively at third base. Wasn't super exciting. Wasn't anything flashy. Did strike out and did not walk at nearly the rate that we expected him to, but he absolutely tore it up in Round Rock with an OPS over 840 at 846. The on base was over 300. Obviously crushed it in the 8 games where he was at the Arizona Complex League. He was 4.5 years older than everybody there, so he was already more advanced at them at that age. So yeah, not really a surprise that he tore it up there. It felt like it took forever for him to finally get his debut, but the Rangers were waiting for him to be fully healthy, and he was, and he dominated in 102 plate appearances. Did have some struggles, but I have no doubt that he is going to be one of the best rookies in Major League Baseball next year, and definitely is going to have a pretty good chance for that AL Rookie of the Year, especially now that he's not going to have to compete with Julio Rodriguez and Adley Rutschman. That is going to be probably the best thing for his chances at an AL Rookie of the Year next year. But you all know the deal with Josh Jung. Absolutely love the kid. Think he's going to be a really darn good big leaguer. But it's the fact that I have him second behind this next guy, it more says how highly I think of this next guy. And the last guy on this list, of course, is Evan Carter, the Rangers center field prospect, also plays left and right field. Listed at 6'4", 190 pounds, hits left-handed, throws right-handed, was the second-round pick in the 2020 draft, which might end up being the biggest reason why that draft is an absolute steal, an absolute highway robbery of a draft. Last year, he showed some real promise in 32 games, and I was so excited about it. But a back injury ended his season, and we did not get to see very much of him. He had an on base of 438 and slugged 387 and 825 OPS in 146 plate appearances as an 18-year-old in Down East. Really held his own. I thought, okay, well, he's probably going to start the year in Down East, and they'll be fine with it, and just hope that he can stay healthy, because a back injury at his age was curious. By the way, he just turned 20 on August 29th, so still a very, very young kid. So he was 19 for pretty much the entirety of the season, where he played exactly 100 games in Hickory. Did have, I believe, a leg injury. I can't remember if it was ankle or knee that kept him out just a smidge, but still played 447 plate appearances at high A Hickory, where he was 3.5 years younger than the average player. At that level, all he did was have an 864 OPS, an on base of 388, slugged 476, 11 home runs, 10 triples, and 18 doubles. Just let that sink in for a 19-year-old playing pretty much everyday center field. Also stole 26 bags of just 12 caught stealing, 59 walks to 75 strikeouts. Absolutely love that from him. And he probably would have won the Texas League Player of the Week award had Thomas Saggese, not Saggese. I'm going to screw that up 100,000 times when he's a big leaguer, but hopefully I'll screw it up a few more between now and then. But anyway, when he got called up to Frisco, he was 5.2 years younger than the average player in the Texas League in 6 games. He hit 429, 536, and slugged 14 for a 1250 OPS, had 3 doubles and a homer. Also stole a couple bases, got caught stealing once, 5 walks to 6 strikeouts in those 28 plate appearances, and more than held his own in center field, and offensively was a big part of the Frisco Rough Riders winning that Texas League championship. Looked absolutely fantastic. I wouldn't be surprised if they just started him in AAA next year. I know he only had those 6 games in Frisco, and however many the playoffs were, I think that was around 10, 13 games. But still, incredibly good season for this guy. Plays elite center field defense, has a good arm, could be a potential 5-tool player. Like, he is just that guy. Think of Brandon Nimmo, but I think maybe with a little bit more pop, because he's a guy who's going to have an on-base in the 350 to 380 range. I think he's going to play premium defense in center field, so maybe a little bit better defensively than Brandon Nimmo. Maybe this comp is falling apart a little bit more, but he hits left-handed. He's pretty big, and he can hit for some pop, and just has a really, really good approach at the plate. Just does everything, and I think his floor is incredibly high, because already he is a really darn good defensive outfielder in center field. Not quite Leody level, but I think he's got a much, much better approach than Leody, which, again, for the longest time we thought Leody had a very advanced approach when he was in those lower levels, but it didn't translate as much when he got higher up in the higher levels. For Evan Carter, it's translated at every single level he's been at so far. The Rangers seemed like they were giddy with themselves that they could steal him in the second round, and it felt like one of the dumber picks because he wasn't even on a lot of top 500 lists of draft boards, but the Rangers were right to be giddy because this kid is absolutely incredible. I wouldn't be surprised if he made his big league debut towards the end of the season this year. And I think he's the Rangers' long-term, he's their lone star, I would say, in this system. I think Josh Jung could probably be a star, like maybe a couple-time All-Star, but I think in terms of highest ceiling for position player prospects that are, well, I was going to say that aren't teenagers, or just guys who have been in full season ball for more than 7 games or whatever some of those young teenagers were lower on in the system. But for guys who have played full season ball, this guy has by far the highest ceiling of any position player, pitching prospect. He is just an absolute star in the making. Could be a multi-time All-Star, just a really, really valuable player, I think. And him putting it all together this year and staying healthy was huge, absolutely huge. The biggest developmental win for the Rangers on a team that has done so crappy with second-round picks. To have multiple second-round picks in this top 10 is really, really exciting. Or actually, 3 of them, I think. They had Aaron Zavala, they have Evan Carter, and I believe Owen White was a second-round pick as well. They have done, as bad as they've been at drafting in the first round, they've been almost worse at drafting in the second round during most of the 2000s and 2010s. So seeing them turn around with these guys is really, really encouraging. Evan Carter, hat tip, fantastic year for him. Fantastic year for pretty much all of these guys. Like, none of them had a straight-up terrible year. I mean, well, Leiter wasn't great, but it was still really impressive to see him do what he did, stay healthy, and pretty much hold his own for his first season being in AA in the Texas League. So really strong farm system here. I'll be back next week. That's going to do it for this week's editions of Locked On Rangers. And for your next listen, check out Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia. He's going deep on MLB stars of tomorrow. It is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I'll be back next week, hopefully to talk with Grant Schiller of Baseball Prospectus to let me know if my list is brilliant or moronic. Maybe it's one, maybe it's neither. Who knows? But thank you all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.